2020 continues. Once again, Barbara Walters.
Is there something in us that draws us to the dark side? You'll have to wonder after you see our next story. It's about a ghoulish business that's thriving, especially on the internet. Would you want to own a lock of Charles Manson's hair or a devastating picture of the World Trade Center in flames? It may sound creepy, but as Arnold Diaz discovered, there is a brisk new business in something called murder memorabilia.
From sidewalk souvenir vendors hawking World Trade Center postcards and keychains in the area around Ground Zero, to internet sites auctioning Bin Laden t-shirts, New York Fire Department hats, and Trade Center snow globes, merchants are wasting no time cashing in on the terrorist attacks. Most of the items for sale are not objectionable, but some do seem to cross the line, like these pictures of the Trade Center on fire. This vendor apparently too ashamed to admit he was selling them.
It doesn't seem right to be making money selling pictures of these towers burning, does it?
I don't sell. I don't know.
You don't sell?
No.
What are they doing here?
It's somebody give me, you know.
Somebody gave them to you?
Yeah, yeah.
But you're not selling them?
No, no.
But they're right here on your counter.
Did we find some firemen up there?
Far more repugnant are those who've tried to auction Trade Center debris and sell ashes from the site to victims' families. An angry Mayor Giuliani warned,
no one is going to sell anything from the World Trade Center.
And guess who predicted people would try to capitalize on this tragedy? None other than convicted Son of Sam serial killer David Berkowitz, who terrified New Yorkers during the summer of '77, stalking young couples in lovers' lanes, killing 6, wounding 7. After the recent terrorist attacks, he wrote to a 2020 producer saying, "I'm wondering if some people will begin to sell chunks of the ruined building, pieces of burnt furniture. I wouldn't put it past a few."
What draws people to these things? Only God knows.
Exploitation of the World Trade Center tragedy is just the latest wrinkle in a macabre underworld with which Berkowitz is very familiar. An underworld that glorifies death and destruction and makes cult figures out of mass murderers, marketing their possessions to the highest bidder.
Welcome to the bizarre world of murderabilia, where you can buy everything from serial killer wall calendars to Jeffrey Dahmer dolls, to paintings by John Wayne Gacy, to a lock of Charles Manson's hair in the shape of a swastika. What was once an underground market has come into mainstream America via the internet, and it's got a lot of people upset.
No one should be able to rob, rape, and murder, and then turn around and make a buck off of it.
Andy Kahn, director of the mayor's crime victims office in Houston, recently displayed for a committee of Texas legislators some of the unusual murderabilia he found listed on eBay last year. Fingernail clippings from California serial killer Roy Norris that sold for $12.99. A half-smoked cigarette from Charles Manson, the opening bid $20.
I couldn't believe that there were items connected to serial killers that were being sold. Like you, I was also stunned to find out that it was legal.
Most prisons forbid convicts from selling items directly to the public, so the inmates have found a way to get around that by using dealers on the outside.
As long as people are interested in it and there's somebody out there that wants to purchase this stuff, for whatever reason, they get some kind of a thrill or a kick out of this, then I don't really see the harm in that.
Rick Staten, a mortician from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is both a collector and a dealer of murderabilia. He's got a garage full of killer collectibles, like a jar of dirt from the grave of Ed Gein, the murderer who inspired the movie Psycho. The complete set of serial killer trading cards, many of them autographed. He's got signatures of John Lennon's killer, Mark David Chapman, and Jeffrey Dahmer. There are paintings and drawings by lots of murderers. The more notorious, the more valuable their work.
What would a Manson painting like that go for?
This painting here, anywhere from, say, about $1,100 to about $1,700.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, easily.
You've sold this murderabilia to many people. Who's the typical buyer?
People think that, you know, all kinds of ghouls and creeps crawl out of the woodwork to buy this stuff, and they really don't. It's pretty much your average Joe Blow, you know. Crime enthusiasts, obviously.
Staten generally keeps 30% of the sale price and deposits the rest in the killer's prison bank account. Staten even went to death row to pick up the paintings from serial killer John Wayne Gacy, who made tens of thousands of dollars before he was executed. He called Staten his #1 art dealer.
People would say, you know, you're helping horrible people who've done horrible things make money.
I wasn't doing it to make John Gacy rich or any of these other guys rich or anything like that. I was doing it because I had an interest in their crimes, their past.
Is the money that you've made from selling killers' murderabilia, is that blood money?
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. I mean, I don't see any other way to look at it.
It's dealers like Staten that crime victims advocate Andy Kahn blames more than the serial killers for the growing trade in murderabilia.
It's the dealers, people on the outside living in a free society that essentially use the serial killers or killers simply to make a profit off of. I find that even more repulsive in itself.
In fact, Kahn has letters from a dozen well-known murderers, including David Berkowitz, who say murderabilia bearing their names is being sold without their permission, and they're against it.
The sale of these things really grieves my heart. I'm terribly ashamed for the things that I had done in the past. I know what a nightmare it is to see these things marketed.
Now serving a life sentence at New York's Sullivan Correctional Facility, David Berkowitz, 48 years old, gray-haired, a born-again Christian, rarely gives interviews, but agreed to talk with me because he feels strongly about this issue.
I've never profited from anything that was done. I know many items have been sold, not with my permission or knowledge, but I would hope that one day some of this stuff could come to an end.
Berkowitz has become an unwilling cult figure in the world of murderabilia because of his headline-grabbing killing spree, murders he now blames on his Satan worship at the time.
It's a long story how that all came about, and I wish I could take it all back.
And he wishes he hadn't written letters to so many people during his early years in prison.
We downloaded a bunch of the offerings that are on the internet.
Letters that I showed him are now being sold for up to $200 apiece.
I was, you know, fearful, angry, confused, lonely, and just coming into Attica State Prison. I probably wrote to just about anybody that would write, including this person here, not knowing that years down the road they would have, you know, motives, other motives to sell or...
Also for sale are manufactured items like a stained glass tribute to Son of Sam and a Son of Sam clock.
You have Berkowitz.
Rick Staten even bought photos of Berkowitz and his father from a former pen pal of the prisoners.
A personal item like that, a picture of you and your dad with your arms around each other, ending up in somebody's murderabilia collection.
That hurts. That hurts. Because my dad's a wonderful man. He's a really decent, great guy.
Berkowitz doesn't think that this kind of stuff should be traded.
But see, he's opposed to that. I'm opposed to going around randomly blowing someone's brains out with a 44 Magnum. So I guess he and I just don't see, you know, the same on that.
But Berkowitz says his objection to the sale of murderabilia is not just the pain and grief it causes him.
I can't imagine how much pain and suffering it causes family members, those who've lost loved ones through violent crime.
Mark Kloss knows that pain and suffering all too well. His 12-year-old daughter Polly was abducted, raped, and murdered by career criminal Richard Allen Davis.
The sooner he dies, the better off the world is.
Davis is now on death row in San Quentin, but last year, Mark Kloss found out that letters Davis wrote and pictures of him shirtless in the prison yard were up for bid on eBay, and says he
was as angry as I had been since the day I found out what had happened to my child. Can't look at this guy's stuff, man. Sorry.
Klaas, at Andy Kahn's urging, wrote to his state legislators, and as a result, this year, California became the first state to make it illegal for prisoners or dealers to profit from the sale of murderabilia. Texas recently passed a similar law, and in May, eBay announced from now on it would prohibit murderabilia from being auctioned on its site.
We owe crime victims the dignity and respect that they deserve by shutting this industry down.
But there's probably no way to totally shut it down. There are other websites selling murderabilia. In most states, it's still legal, and there's definitely a market for it. Rick Staten believes that murderabilia appeals to a dark but fundamental part of human nature.
This makes my family sick, makes my mom sick, makes my wife sick. Everybody I know claims to just be so appalled by this, but the minute they step into this room, you know, they're glued to everything in here and they're asking questions and they're genuinely intrigued by it. So it makes me wonder, you know, am I the one who's so abnormal or am I pretty normal?
It's not surprising that right after Timothy McVeigh's execution, copies of his final written statement and death certificate were being sold on the internet. As for the World Trade Center debris people tried to auction, both eBay and Yahoo say they immediately pulled those items off their sites. But experts say there'll no doubt be more to come, because in the world of murderabilia, death is great for business.
Each to his own taste. We'll be right back.